Okay, we're going to take a quick look at routing now on both machines. We looked at the hardware, so how do you get sounds out of here into different places? Basically, on the Akai, it's really straightforward because you use the mix view. So first thing I'm going to do is just load up a program. So we've got some sounds in there. So I'm going to use this quick browser to get to sounds. I'm already in drum programs. Either one will do. Sonic Boom. This is one of the built-in like factory libraries. Let's choose Detroit. That's loading the samples now straight into the pad. So if I go back to main, you'll see on track 1 that drum program we've just written over is which is loaded up. Sorry, is Detroit, and you can hear that now. Woo. If I play the pads where you look at my mixer at the moment, you'll see it's coming through the 1 and 2, which is where I've got the Akai's main stereo channels going to. If we want to change that, we want to alter how each sound or the group is being routed. Yeah, we just hit the mix button. So you can see, select any one of the sounds using the pads. Let's go to that kick, and this is here in this panel. It's not obvious because at the moment it says program, which doesn't sound like an output selection, but it is, because what it's saying at the moment is that the output is going to the main program. So the audio is being routed wherever the main program is going. If we hit mix again, we'll see program view. And so we are on Classic House Detroit. That's the 4th program loaded in at the moment. And that is going to, that is going to out 1 and 2, the main stereo out. So if we go back to the mix screen for the individual program that shows all our sounds laid out, at the moment, every one of these is sort of defaulted, as most programs will be, right, to whatever the program as a whole is doing. So if you want to change that, like with that kick, you go in there, whoa, go in there, and you can see you can develop like subgroups as well, which is sort of handy for, you know, creating elements that you want mixed or whatever together, or even across different groups, etc. But for now, what we're going to do is just select out 3. So, and now you can see all the other sounds still are routed to the program, which is the main outs 1 and 2. Now this kick, you can't hear it now because it's routed to 3. So we have to go to the mixer channel, which is currently muted. Get some volume up on that. Go back over here so you can see and hear that is now coming through on its own. Everything else on the main channels and the kick on that 3. So that's really sweet and easy. That's the MPC's approach when it comes to setting up your routing on the Maschine Plus. You'll see that if we click the mixer view, it's a bit different to the MPC. You don't have immediate access to the routing. This is really just you know, levels and panning essentially. You actually have to go to a different page. It has its own button here, channel, to enter the routing options. And you can do this by sound. That is like, you know, for each individual pad, you can see as I hit them, those parameters are changing. Or you can do it for the whole group. But yeah, and obviously because they're only the stereo outs, you don't have a lot of options or flexibility unless you had an external audio interface with more ins and outs. Essentially, you can choose whether an individual sound is going to the group, straight to the master, or even straight to the main external out. So you sort of bypass the group settings or the master settings of the project. Which, you know, might be just because you want one, you know, the whole group treated, I don't know, as a bus, but one particular sound not to be affected by whatever bus effects you might have going on there, and to go straight to the output. But even if you do that, of course, they're all going to be summed to stereo. So in my case, you know, they're all going to just come into those two stereo channels where I've got Maschine set up on my mixer. I can't spread them out across different channels as I could with the MPC and its individual routing. So that's the main difference when it comes to routing outputs on Maschine Plus against the MPC Live with its all-in-one mixer view. Okay, staying with routing and going back to the MPC and its mixer page, let's look at getting sound into the machine from external hardware. Right now I've got the Matriarch patched into the stereo input, the main jack sockets at the back of the MPC. First thing we got to do, because I'm still looking at the mixer page for this drum program, and because we're in a drum program, we can't actually do the input settings from here. What we've got to do is switch this program up from what it currently is. You can see it says drum program here on track 1. We need to change the program on track 1, or either the program type, from down here MIDI to audio. Now that means we're no longer playing that drum kit. That's kind of not active on the pads anymore. If we switch back, it'll mean that track 1 is back to being a drum program. But like I said, we need it to be on audio, because once we create an audio track, as you can see, we then have like an arm button, input configuration, and edit audio options, which don't appear on any of the other types of tracks. They all have their own options, but they don't give you access to those main audio inputs. So click MIDI, click back to audio. Obviously, straight away you can see we get the option of inputs here. Now I'm only using those stereo inputs, so leave that where it is. You also can route the outputs from here, as you could when we looked at the mixer page earlier for all programs. And you can, other options like add inserts, etc., etc. For now, I just want to get that sound in. So I'm playing, hit something on the Matriarch now. Okay, you can't hear anything, but if you look close on the meter there, you'll see there is something coming in. And if you're used to working indoors, again, this will be very familiar to you. You need to change the monitoring from off to in, so that it's listening and playing back what's coming in. And there you go. That's the Moog doing its, Moog doing its thing, like only it can. And once you've got that set up, you're ready to record any audio you want to. Very easily add insert effects, so they will be added to the incoming audio. Back over on the Maschine Plus, again, as we saw before, this isn't something you can do from the mixer, but if I set up a new group, go to pad mode, you can see, take it off the mixer view, go to pad mode, currently empty, nothing in there at the moment. And this is where it's a bit different, and in some ways, for me, kind of simpler than the MPC method. Getting inputs in, you can do on any pad, regardless of like what type of program you've got loaded in there. I know that seems weird, but so wherever you are, you hit that channel button we saw earlier, and instead of the output settings, which we looked at, you just use the encoder, move over to input. As you can see at the moment, it says audio source none, But if I flip to the main, sorry, in left and right, which is the main stereo inputs, they got wired up at the back of the Maschine Plus. And currently I have coming into it the sounds of the Digitone over here. That's also synced up by MIDI at the moment. So hopefully if I press start on the Maschine, you'll hear that playing back. There you go. And that's coming in straight in through that. If I flip that to none, this pad selections input is none. That's why you can't hear it anymore. Just flip that back on, and it's bringing in that audio straight into this pad. And again, a bit like with the MPC, if you hit the plugin button, which is where you can access all the plugins in the machine, you can choose an effect. I don't know, let's choose something that's going to make it obvious, like actually let's go for Realm, the reverb. That's a really nice one. Load that into this slot, straight away you can hear the madness. Let's turn the mix down a bit. But yeah, that is putting an insert directly on the incoming audio being monitored live, which is pretty good. And again, you can do that just as easy on the MPC, but with different method. Routing effects, like everything else on the MPC, when it comes to routing audio, is basically done through the mixer view. You can see straight away that there's the inserts option here, which makes it really easy to add inserts to any individual pad at that kind of sound level. Or if you change the hit mix again, toggle to the let's just go here, switch that. I'm just using the main encoder to switch the view of the mixer to, where do you go, programs. So obviously if you've got, now we're looking, we select this one, we're actually selecting, sorry, that one, the entire drum program we were just in, and then we can add inserts at the sort of group level, you know, treating it almost like a bus, I guess, but you get what I'm saying. And the same for both, whether you're in the sort of individual sound level mixer or that program view, where you see all the programs laid out. You have access to inserts and to the sends and to the routing. So that makes everything accessible really easily from one screen, which I like. In terms of sends, how do you actually set up a return that you can send to? Again, this is took me a while to figure out and get used to, but when you're in the if you like, program view, or the higher level mixer view, which currently is set to programs, you just again, I'm going into that selection and moving the main encoder, and as you can see, I get option of what that mixer is displaying, which is pretty clever actually, once you know it's there. And it's good because you also get a view, almost you can treat it as an overview of your whole project, because you can see what's up with your MIDI tracks at program level, audio tracks, and then the programs, as we said, and then returns. So obviously this is where you set the return, and you choose one of the returns, 1 to 4, already set up here. They have nothing on them, so you're simply adding an effect in the insert box. If you had a channel strip, there it is. You go back there, that's now on return 1. Still, the others are still blank. Then, bear with me, when you go back to the the other mixer view that shows you each individual pad in a program, in this case the drum program. You then of course have the option of choosing to send as much or as little of, and you can actually double click to make that process a bit quicker. You can send to those effects. If I just go back, show you that again, so hit mixer button to toggle, select returns up here, which it's already on. Actually go to return to, and we'll choose something a bit more obvious that we'll actually hear, like a creative effect. Let's see, what's in vintage? Oh, no. There you go, delay and reverb, Akai, delay, analog sync. Okay, good. That's on. By the way, sorry, one thing I should show you is if you want to edit that, the settings of that, then you go in and it's got a nice graphical interface for all the effects. Okay, let's go back now to apply sends to that return. We're in the, let's choose that clap, choose send to, so I'm just toggling the send at the bottom now, it's on send to. And then if I bring that up, there you go. So you can apply as much or as little of that return effect to any of the individual sounds. To demonstrate effects routing in Maschine Plus, I've got a kit loaded already. Now, like a lot of the sounds, especially in the expansion packs, etc., these kits and these individual sounds will already have effects loaded on them. To check what's going on with each sound, you select the sound you want to look at and you hit the plugin button here, and that shows you everything that's loaded on top of the main sound. So that kick has cabinet and frequency shifter, the clap has an EQ, that's all, etc. And we use the encoder with the browser to just add more insert effects here, whatever you want. And you can do that at both the individual sound level or for the entire group. So if we add something in at this stage, now everything in the group has that phaser on it. I'm just going to remove that for now. What about send effects? So for instance, if you have a lot of groups set up and you want to use something like the same room reverb or delay in different amounts across different groups, different sounds, as we said, there isn't a way of doing that through the mixer. So what you're used to doing in your DAW, and also what you can do on MPC Live, which is set up and manage send returns, you can't do that here. There's a Maschine workaround though, which is basically setting up a group for FX. So let's do that now. You go to let's choose group D, new group, pad, nothing on it. We're going to add an effect in here. Notice you can choose whether you're adding an instrument or an effect. And let's put round the reverb unit on here. Now obviously hitting that pad is doing nothing because there's no actual sound loaded. To get signal here from our other groups and sounds, we go into the settings on those sounds and send it to that destination. So I'm going to quickly load a stab from Monarch into group B. There we go. That's the, if we click plug in, we see there's no insert effect on it. Now, if we want to send that signal to the kind of effects bus, if you like, that we've set up here with Realm on it, all we do is, with that sound selected, we go to the channel page and we're already in audio. What we want to do though is leave that where it is and go to the aux or auxiliary selection. So you can see we've got some options here. I'm going to send it to that group where we just set up, realm. And if I start with a level off, that just sounds dry. But as I introduce some level, you hear we're using that basically like a send on a traditional mixer channel. And the same thing happens if we go to the kit we have loaded on Group A. And this time, instead of doing it by individual sound, let's say we want to send everything in that group to that auxiliary. We select group, we go back to the channel view, and as you can see, it's already in the auxiliary section. And we do the same thing. We go down and we choose that group with realm on it. And now adjust the level. And remember, we're doing this for the whole group. And that's how you set up send effects in Maschine. It's a bit of a workaround. I don't think it's particularly difficult once you get your head around it. And actually, it can create some maybe more like creative kind of thinking around how you use effects. And you can obviously set up a whole bunch of effects that you can use as sends, depending on processing power, etc. But you know, you can save those as groups, you know, your favorite effect, etc. Just like you can a group of sounds that you preload whenever you want to access them. It's a pretty nice feature, even though if you're used to working the traditional way with send returns, it's going to take a bit of getting used to. I'd say if you're coming from a typical DAW like Logic or Ableton, the MPC way of doing things is gonna be a lot more natural from the off. You know, you have that mixer view, and for every sound, you straight away have access via this kind of little channel strip, I guess, you know, to volume panning, add effects, solo, mute, and like I showed you earlier, if you get into that selector there, you can change the output routing right from the mixer page. And obviously that's one of the things about having a touchscreen. You can kind of do so much more. You know, you create different levels, whereas back on the Maschine Plus, the mix is really basic. Okay, that can be a good or bad thing depending on your view, and you've got to go into a separate page to get routing and things set up. Saying all that, routing on the Maschine Plus isn't that complicated anyway because of its hardware limitations, so maybe a moot point, but worth pointing out for new users who might find it a bit strange that you can't access routing from the mixer page. But that's and it does slow the workflow down a little bit, but you do get used to it.